Okay, I'm gonna be doing a new kind of style video here. There's gonna be some videos. Hopefully they'll all work out. What I'm gonna ask to start this conversation off is, what is the difference between the Universal Church of the Kingdom of God over here that I bring out their logo? There's some things you're picking up here versus the Roman Catholic Church on the right. A lot of people will point out Catholic just means universal, right? But there's somehow a little bit of a difference. What games are both of these things playing? There's something, you can just look at the building that I'm pointing out here. There's something essentially different about this universal church compared to the universal church. Okay? Both of them mean different things, and one of them is more universal than the other. Right? Are they both totally universal? What does universal mean, and why do we have arenas? Arena is a word that's being used a lot of the time on some of the spaces that I'm kind of gallivanting into, and it's kind of this arena-agent distinction. Arenas are these places where agents perform by a set of rules. They come into a certain context. They say things that make sense, that have symbological meaning only because of the arena that they've been put in. Okay, so what are these arenas? Let's talk about that a little bit today. What I want to bring up here is, I think a good way to illustrate this point is, what is the difference between a fundamentalist and an evangelical? And what does that really mean? When I first got into Christianity, I spent a lot of time watching this channel called The Holy Post, which are basically progressive evangelicals, although I don't know if they would call themselves that, but they spent a lot of time allegedly being evangelicals, and then you watch and you're like, do you like evangelicals? I mean, this is just one video where they just talk about how much the evangelical movement is bad. Almost all of their videos, if you look through their catalog, are like, this is the failure of the evangelicals on this guns issue. This is why we shouldn't be pro-life even though we're pro-life. This is why we shouldn't advocate for political pro-life stuff. And you just start to ask, do you actually like being an evangelical, or do you just have this hang up and you're really playing into a different civilization? You're playing a different arena, not the evangelical arena, and you've brought your evangelical identity into this arena, and you want to keep it, but you want it to also have a place in the archetypes available in this new arena, right? Okay. I think the distinction between fundamentalist and evangelical often can become, the evangelicals are in the acceptable arena sometimes, and the fundamentalists are outside of the acceptable arena. Okay? They're the ones that are trying to create their own arena. And I think it's hard to say that Ali B. Stuckey, by the way, is a progressive evangelical, but I'm going to show you this clip and see if you can pick up on what I'm talking about.
Since I first talked to you in January, it seems like it's just Ginger Duggar Volo and her husband Jeremy Volo are joining us today in studio. This is a continuation of the first interview I had with Ginger a couple months ago about her new book, Becoming Free Indeed. This is about her story, her upbringing, the theology of the Duggars, and learning what the real liberating gospel is. So we'll be getting more deeply into what it was like growing up as a Duggar, what that theology really.
There's definitely something with the Duggar movement, I think, and other fundamentalist movements that people can pick up on when they're part of the evangelical circle, and they say, you're doing something wrong. Ali B. Stuckey, for instance, uses the word liberating gospel. If you've watched the whole interview, which I recommend that you do, the Duggars are very legalistic. They have their own rules. He makes up his own rules, the cult leader of this movement. And it's just like, it's its own arena. You don't talk to people outside of the group. You don't talk to people that contradict messages and arena rules in the group. Why? Because you want a place in that arena. And in fact, when you get a new identity, like the person she's interviewing in this video, Ginger, when you get a new identity, you have to find the new arena. And she was lucky enough to be basically accepted into the evangelical arena, basically the mainstream evangelical arena. Now, what arenas do is they give this place for different agents. And so what you say as an individual is you play this back and forth game of, I'm this agent, and I've got a place in this arena, and I'm going to play this role. And not all the agents are the same, but there's these archetypes going around, right? Male and female in a way, are agentic archetypes that people occupy so that they have a place in the arena of sex and relationships, right? It's also an essential trait, right? But if you think about gender, people try to say something different between gender and sex, right? Lots of people with sex don't play the gender game that they're supposed to, you might say, right? But what that means is they're not playing into the arenic archetype as an agent. They're going against it. And what we might say is, hey, we're all in this arena together. I thought we were playing by these rules. Paul Vanderklay talks a lot about arenas, and that's kind of where I'm stealing this from. And he just uploaded a new video about it, which inspired this one. He's talking more specifically about gender, but I'm just going to talk in general about agents and arenas and stuff. And I think a good video on maybe the way to look at evangelicals in the arena of America, right, is this video by J.J. McCullough about how he pointed out that evangelicals came outside. There was this kind of split between liberal Christianity and fundamentalist Christianity. People who took the Bible very literally, and then people who took the Bible very liberally. And then there were these kind of guys like Billy Graham who kind of tried to break that mold, take the Bible very seriously, but still play in the American arena. They don't have their own separate schools. They don't go their own separate ways. Holy Post, by the way, makes a big thing about this in one of their videos, that the good evangelicals in the Holy Post perspective and the bad evangelicals a little bit in JJ's kind of perspective is, and even though JJ is a conservative, he kind of has concerns about evangelicals influencing the conservative movement. But what he's saying is, oh wait, we accepted this agent identity as a valuable archetype in the arena that people will embody, and it will shape the entire arena because we've accepted that agentic archetype, right? So he points out maybe that before evangelicals became Republicans were more socially not conservative, you might say. They didn't care as much about abortion or something like that, right? It's only because of the influence of this agentic archetype we've assimilated into the arena of republicanism that the arena then plays this game out where we care about pro-life issues or something like that, right? It's a good video. You should totally watch it. Now, what a lot of people will say today is, we're getting more polarized than we've ever been. You know, a lot of people, even center-left people, center-right people, older people tend to say something to the effect of, you know, I'm being told I'm a conservative, but I feel like I'm a liberal from 20 years ago. What's going on? And what they're saying is, in a way, we used to have this arena where the archetype I now embody was accepted as an agentic archetype, but now I'm being told I no longer am. That agentic archetype is no longer in the arena. It's no longer acceptable, and you're being cast out for having that belief because it's outside of the bounds of the rules of the arena, and you're being punished, right? So what's happening is we're collecting all of these random people in Nation B, and I talk about that in a lot of my videos, right? Where it just is in a weird way the haphazard result of the arena of Nation A cutting you out. Because the arena rules of Nation A say you can't be there. The arena rules of Nation A, by the way, also have their own archetypes. Think about how overt this kind of a flag is. The way that intersectionality is talked about. DEI is talked about. What they do is they literally list out the archetypes of the things that they will include, and it's an arenic display. In a weird way, it's kind of like the Book of Moses or the Ten Commandments in a Christian arena. What you're saying is, here are the things you can do to be an archetype in this society, right? This flag that people make fun of because it has each and every possible thing that is good in the LGBTQIA plus, BIPOC world. But these acronyms, they accrue archetypes, and they say these are the valuable archetypes in this arena. And if you're an agent, you have to pick one. Right? People will say, isn't it weird that 20% of Gen Z people identify as LGBTQ+? Isn't it weird that people like ContraPoints will say something like gender doesn't exist, but I also know that I'm a woman? What transgender woman is the T in that a list of arenic archetypal identities you can assume. So they do. The joke about all of the bread tubers from 5 years ago is that they became transgender. Why? They became non-binary. They became all these things. Why? Because they're fulfilling agentic archetypes as agents so that they can fit in. This is another Ally B. Stuckey video, by the way, where this woman is complaining because she's suing the state of Oregon because she went to adopt a child in the state of Oregon, and they asked that if the child she adopted would have come out as transgender, would this mother have given them a gender affirming care? And the mother said no, or the potential adoptive mother said, no, I wouldn't, because I think that that's wrong, and I think that's harmful, and it's against my Christian beliefs. And then they didn't let her adopt because of it. And she's very upset. She's like, wait, aren't I in the arena? What happened? Is that belief not acceptable? Right? And she's finding out that the arena will push her out of the realm of playing. She can't be an agent in this arena. And that bothers people. That's what they sue over, right? That's what people were complaining about in a discrimination suit. What you're saying is, I've been cut out of the arena. I'm being discriminated against, even though my agentic identity should be accepted in the arena. And we fight over those things so that we can see who can and can't be in the arena. What I think Christians have to conceptualize with this kind of arenic talk is that the church is an arena too. Even the one you go to every day or every Sunday is an arena. What happens in church is there's all these identities. Think about the way Paul, in all of his epistles, talks about the different places of the body of Christ. This person does that. One person is the hand. One person is the shoulder. And if you go to a church that has a powerful community or a strong community, you've got this woman is in charge of all the finances because that's what she's very good at. And this guy's the pastor. And this is the associate pastor. And he deals with a lot of the youth pastor stuff. And this other, the deacon, she's in charge of dealing with the children's ministry. And you realize all these people have an agentic role. We give names to them, like deacon or youth pastor or whatever, because we're saying this archetype is valuable and it's playing a role in this arena, and we're going to let people go into those places. Okay? In the Roman Catholic Church, you kind of have this, all of these strong archetypes that are very rigid. There's a cardinal, and there's a priest, and then there's the deacon, and then there's a monk, and they have all of these agentic roles in this arena, and it's very clear cut. Okay? And the reason that they might have these things is because of how broad the power, the expanse of the Roman Catholic Church is. And so what might encourage someone to be a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church, rather than just saying, wouldn't it be easier to start my own random sect of Christianity to get power and influence, or to have my agency recognized by an arena? The problem with that game is that what we want is that our identities being recognized by an arena is a natural part of social interaction, and conforming to arenic archetypes is also something that we desire, okay? Because when we're in larger denominations or larger arenas, we get this sense of belonging, and we get this sense of completion, place, role, right? This is why you might want to be a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church and not the head apostle, the most important arenic identity, right? In the FLDS, random denomination splinter group in some part of Utah where they run their own little society, because that arena is very small, and that arena doesn't seem like it's going to have this effect. In fact, our instincts tell us that it's kind of immoral, right? Because what is the Christian moral principle about arenas? We'll get back to this in a second. But even the Anglican communion, which I'm in, is an arena. And what we say when people in GAFCON and versus Canterbury is what we're saying is, who's in charge of this arena? Who gets to set the rules? Why was it such a big deal when the Archbishop of Canterbury, supposedly the head agent of the communion, said that it was, or when the Church of England, I guess you could say, said it was okay to bless same-sex marriages? What are they doing? They're inviting new agents into the arena, and the other members of the arena reject that. They said, we got a rule about this. Lambeth Conference, we've been over this before. You can't do that. Sorry, you're breaking the rules of the arena, and you're getting kicked out. And so they met up. 85% of the Anglican communion met up in Kigali, Rwanda, recently, like a couple weeks ago, and they said, you're no longer a part of the Anglican communion, the Archbishop of Canterbury. And you're like, what? And lots of people are confused about this because isn't he the head agent? Can the Roman Catholic Church get rid of the Pope? And it's like, yes, because the arena's rules are more powerful than any individual agent. And these arenas are what are going to give value in the first place to these agent identities. So if you don't have the arena, you don't have the identity. And if you don't have identities, you don't have the arena. Okay? And what a lot of people think is going to happen, okay, is that, oh, Christianity is being pushed out of Nation A arena. What we have to do is we have to find a new place, like the evangelicals did that I pointed out before. That story was something about us finding a new identity and role in this arena. But these progressive churches that do this are dying. I think Rod Dreher pointed out, the last Episcopalian was already born. Why? What does it mean? And it's because churches are arenas, so you can't use a church to be an arena within an arena when that arena fundamentally rejects the understanding, the identity of Christianity. The Nation A, as we're increasingly finding out, totally denies almost all of the parts, all of the archetypal identities involved in Christianity. It doesn't like the male-female distinction. It doesn't like the kind of hierarchy of church worship. Okay, it doesn't like priests, right? It doesn't like pastors and youth pastors and the agentic thing I was talking about before with there's a children's ministry where the woman takes care of the kids. Those rules that are in a Christian arena are not rules in the Nation A arena. So when you say, give me a space in Nation A, they say, yes, as long as you play by our rules. And when you say, I will play by those rules, you no longer are a Christian arena. And so people stop showing up or they just become not Christian, because what you're doing is you're self-suiciding this arena. You're giving it up and you're giving new people into a different arena rather than being given a space, because churches aren't agents, they are arenas. Okay? To point this out, to illustrate this point, okay, I'm going to play another video.
The Church of England, the source of Anglicanism. The influence of the church has been massive. After the Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church, Anglicanism is the next largest communion worldwide, with 85 million people counted among the Anglican denominations. And of those 85 million people, 26 million are in the namesake church itself. That's right, 26 million baptized members of the Church of England. And there's 16,000 church buildings throughout England to accommodate them, although there's only 12,500 active parishes. And we're just talking England, too, not the whole UK, because in Scotland it's a separate church, the Scottish Episcopal Church, and the church in Wales is also separate, along with the Church of Ireland, which services Northern Ireland. So 12,500 parishes in England for the 26 million members. That's 2,080 members per church on average. So the church is booming, right? Well, here's the bad news. Almost everyone doesn't show up. Yes, they're members officially, but in reality the Church of England has seen much better days. We're going to take a look at the 2019 statistics, and they aren't good news. And this is before the COVID-19 pandemic. When things are back to normal, we can revisit and see what additional damage has been done. Let's start with the median church. Take the church right in the middle, the 6,250th by size out of 12,500. How many people do you think are in attendance on a given week? There's around 6,000 churches bigger than this one and 6,000 churches smaller than it. Well, here's the answer. That church has an average weekly attendance of 31 people. You heard me right. 6,250 of the congregations in the mighty Church of England have 31 or fewer people in average weekly attendance. And how about the number of children in attendance in the median church, where 6,250 churches have more children and 6,250 have fewer? There's 2 children in that church. Half of Church of England congregations have 2 or fewer children. That's who will be attending in the next generation. In other words, nobody will be attending in the next generation in all likelihood.
What he's pointing out in that video, I think if you watch it, is the Church of England used to have this place in English society, which was fundamental in order to be in the arena of England, okay, of the social context of that nation. Being a part of the Church of England was necessary. So you've got all of these people who are signed up as members of Church of England, and most of them are old because when they signed up, when they were baptized, it was still a necessary rule for the arenic participation. The church, in that sense, played a role in the nation as an arena. But now that the arena is moving on, is moving past them, okay, and it no longer has that rule in it, these spaces are dead. And if you think that what's happening here is, oh, they need to kind of get with the times, first I'd say, if you're not setting the rules of the arena, you're not in charge, okay, and you aren't an arena anymore, something else is, okay. Secondly, the churches in the world, and England is no exception, that are the most doctrinally sound, the ones that are most Christian, the most aggressively and unapologetically orthodox in their principles. Like he points out in the video that the Orthodox Church and the Pentecostal Church, who are very different in liturgical practices, who are very different in their theology, are both growing very quickly in England. Why? Because they are separate arenas for the outcasts of the people being cast out of the England arena. And the church is mistaken in thinking that it's still a part of the arena. So it's going to go with all of these changes, but that does not save these churches because they aren't the arena, okay? Something else is. I've been calling that arena Nation A in a lot of my videos, okay? And those roles that are in the arena do not include being Christian. And so what we expect as Christians, okay, is that what's happening to our arenas, they're getting conquered, they're getting replaced, okay? We have to expect that the reverse will happen. Because what is at the core the moral vision of Christianity? When I'm in my other videos talking about the objective moral principles, morality is an is-ought distinction. The world is this way and it ought to be that way. What are we saying when we say Christ will conquer the earth? Okay? We're saying that every single thing, every person, every agent will be in this arena eventually. This arena will encompass the entirety of the world in a harmonious and possible way that these other arenas aren't capable of. The very fact that when these arenas conquer places, these progressive arenas, these more modernist and postmodernist arenas conquer places and set up their own new rules, people are exiled out, they leave, okay? They're forced out of these places, is because they don't have a place for them in these arenas. That's where I think a lot of mental health issues are coming from in our modern world. What the rules of the modernist arena are is you have to be one of those agentic identities that they already prescribed for you, and if you're not, you have to shut up, stay quiet, and get out. I know that's harsh, but I think that is the truth of the situation that we kind of have to realize. That's what I'm talking about in my ContraPoints video. That's what I'm talking about in my Anglican Communion video. That what is going on here is we have to establish these separate arenas. And so what Nation B has to be is an arena. And it's slowly evolving into that. I think the more and more we go on through time, the more people are saying, hey, I don't know about the rules of Nation A. I don't know about the rules of the arena. And what is going to slowly happen is we're going to see people totally rebelling. I think in a way, Donald Trump's success shows there are all of these people in Nation B who just want to see the destruction of the arena that they were kicked out of. Is that moral? Not really. Is it productive? Not really either. Because what it thinks is that we're going to change Arena A from within Arena A, when I don't think that's going to happen. What we're going to have to do is provide a separate arena that will actually have people in it. Because as time goes on, Nation A arena won't have anyone left because of the exclusionary archetypes that are present in Nation A. All right, that's my new video. Hopefully this one is less confusing than maybe my other ones are. I always look back at these and I'm like, wow, I'm really just rambling for 20 minutes. Hopefully people will watch this one. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they get pretty upset in the comments too. So, you never know. If you liked the video, if you agree, if you want to share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll have more videos out momentarily. Thank you.